Oh yeah, sure, Konami. What does a format need with all sorts of broken combos from Halka-Fibrax or a trap deck? Oh yeah, Shockmaster for 3 turns. What is up YouTube, Jamie the Kid 00 here, coming at you guys with a brand new video. So today we're going to be going through an Infernoid Numeron list with the newly launched Battles of Legend Armageddon set having been legal for about a week now, or at least in circulation for a week now. I was actually loaned this deck by a friend of mine, and I'm going to dive right into the list that we have here. So the whole premise behind this list is that by hook or by crook, by Numeron Network or by Lair, it's going to be able to set up a multiple negate board going first, and then using the resources that it likely gained from that, absolutely blow you out with an OTK in the following turn. It truly is a 2-turn deck. To my understanding, it is a hard first, so let's just get right into it. And of course, before we do get into the main board lineup, I would just like to give a massive shout out to our sponsor of today's video, and that is Card Market. Today's video is sponsored by cardmarket.com. Cardmarket.com is your one-stop shop for the European TCG market. Shop from all major card games in all major languages. I use Cardmarket almost every day for my deck profile stocks and my ever-growing foreign collection. With Cardmarket, you can search in all conditions, all rarities, and all languages. Check out the link to their site in the description down below. Cardmarket is also sponsoring free giveaways on my Facebook page, so be sure to check out that page in the link below. Play hard and trade smart with cardmarket.com. So yeah guys, I really would appreciate it if you end up hitting up Card Market in the link down below. It helps out the channel, helps out those guys. They've been fantastic in partnering with me. So check out the link in the description down below. Give it a click. Go and check out the different services they can offer you. Fantastic website that's currently servicing all of my Yu-Gi-Oh card needs. So let's get into the list. So we're starting off the monster lineup with as many Infernoid monsters as is absolutely necessary. And that starts off with 2 copies of Infernoid Anunku and 2 copies of Deviati. Now, these are good cards in their own right in the fact that they can remove your opponent's monsters and spells en masse. And they also have incredibly strong negation effects. However, it's those negation effects that are actually the primary reason we're playing these in the list. This is a list that plays Infernoid, Void Feast. I think I've been saying Void Lair earlier on because this was previously a Lairnoid list. Void Feast, and we're using Void Feast to, of course, set up the 2 Decatrons, send one of each of these to the graveyard so you get a monster and spell negate effectively for free. So it's absolutely ridiculous, and that's the primary reason why we play these, but they are also in there as a banishable tool for things like our Infernoid Attendel, and of course, for their own valid effects. The reason why Attendel is in here is sheer OTK potential. It is the best other Infernoid monster to summon other than these cards, and if you're going for the game shot that this deck is kind of going for in the 1-2 punch of setting up a negate board and then killing you next turn, that is exactly where the Attendel comes in. Then for the other Infernoid cards, we play the 1 copy of Infernoid Sijet, because Sijet is required as a level 6 to fill the gap to make level 8 off of Void Feast, and then of course the infamous triple Infernoid Decatron to give you those negates that we so desire going first into the game. Then I was pointing out that this is a fairly minimal monster lineup, and that is absolutely the truth. This is probably the smallest monster lineup you'll ever see in an Infernoid list. So moving through, we then move on to 3 copies of Numeron Wall that we play in the list. Now, of course, principally Numeron Wall is in here to search out your Numeron Network to give you much quicker access to your negates, and of course it requires you to have no monsters on the field, which is absolutely no problem. You're often going to end turn 1 with no monsters on the field, unless you have to hard summon a Decatron. You're almost always going to set them all up with Void Feast and Network themselves. And then the only other, I suppose, hand trap we play, other than the pseudo Battle Fader that Numeron Wall becomes, is the 3 copies of Frame Gear Gamma, and of course the 1 accompanying driver. So Gamma is really, really important in a current format, which is going to be dominated by not only going first combos with decks that abuse Crystron Halka-Fibrax, but also decks that abuse Numeron Network itself and the Numeron Xyz monsters that it summons. Frame Gear Gamma is one of the only monsters that can stop the Utopic Zexal setup. So it's very, very important to have that, alongside the 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence that we also play in the list as additional hand traps to also stop that S0 setup. So imperative. And of course, you get a free level 8 synchro summon if it's the Gamma that stops it. And that is the monster lineup if you include all of the hand traps. We then have a whole ton of spells to just get us exactly where we want to go. Then, in terms of the spell lineup, we play 3 copies of the newly released Numeron network that, of course, is going to allow us to activate a Numeron card from the deck. And then the second component of this that makes this deck ridiculous in that it can just OTK even without using the Infernoid component, which is ridiculous, is its second effect, in which it allows Numeron monsters on the field to activate their effects without detaching Xyz material. So that's ridiculous. If you've ever read the Numeron Xyz monsters, which we'll get to in a little bit, all of them contain text which allows them to double the attack of all the other Numerons on the field if they've attacked that turn by detaching. But they don't care about detaching, and you're going to put 4 on the field. And if you attack with all of them, the last one is 8,000 direct. Do you see where we're going with this? That's kind of crazy, right? Right. Then to go with the Numeron network, the card you're going to see with it in every single list is the 2 copies of Numeron Calling that accompany it. So Numeron Calling is absolutely bananas. It allows you to special summon up to 4 Numeron Gate Xyz monsters from your extra deck, but you can only normal or special summon once more for the rest of the turn after you've used it. That's all you're going to need. You're going to be making an S0, or you are going to be making, and I forget his name, Infinitrack Fortress Megaclops. The card is just bananas. The fact that you get free advantage for literally no reason. It is admittedly a little bit of a dead draw if you draw it on its own without the network, but of course we are playing a whole plethora of ways to get towards the network first, and if you're able to set up your Utopic Zexal, that's it. Your opponent is going to find it so difficult to push their way out of that situation without some of the more important meta calls like the Gammas and the Impermanence to keep them safe. Accompanying this, we play 3 copies of Memories of Hope, because we are playing some quite small compartmentalized engines, and if there's anything better than setting up a massive negate in the form of Utopic Zexal, it's setting up a massive negate in the form of Utopic Zexal and drawing 4. And that's exactly what Memories of Hope is going to let you do. It allows you to draw cards equal to the number of numbers Xyz monsters with different names that you control. And you can only activate 1 of them per turn. That's absolutely fine. I don't mind activating a draw 4 Pot of Greed while I'm simultaneously abusing an advantage engine that this sets me up with. So Memories of Hope is absolutely bonkers. Alongside an existing lineup that's already ridiculous. And then we play the 1 terraforming to, of course, get us towards our network. Then, in order to whisk us towards our other turn 1 setup, if for some reason we don't find our way to the network, we've built a list that's hyper consistent, and we're looking to play 3 copies of Void Vanishment. Void Vanishment, of course, it's got its little DD Warrior Lady effect, which is kind of cute, but the primary reason it is in here is to search either your 1 copy of Void Imagination to set up your Tierra from your extra deck, and use all the advantages that gains you that we'll discuss in the extra deck segment, or to set up, and it brings me neatly into the trap lineup, the 3 copies of Void Feast that we play in the list. So Void Feast is absolutely ridiculous. If you got this far into the video without understanding what it does, even though I've been kind of gesturing it throughout, it allows you to summon 8 levels worth of Infernoid monsters from the deck to the field by sending another Void card to the graveyard, which is normally going to be using your Void Vanishment, which stays on the field as a continuous spell after it's searched the Void Feast. So you're of course going to be setting up your Sajet and 2 Decatrons, setting up 2 negates, and that is absolutely ridiculous because you're still working with about 3 cards left in your hand to set up all sorts of other shenanigans, use things like Gamma to block your opponent's negates, set cards like Infinite Impermanence, or the rest of the trap lineup that we're about to get to. So a card that also speeds our way towards our Void Feast or our Impermanences or the last card we play in the trap lineup is the 3 copies of Trap Trick in the list. You all know Trap Trick by now. Banish a trap from the deck to set the same copy, but you can only use that 1 trap for the rest of the turn. You don't entirely care. We're not playing all that many traps, and traps like Void Feast lead into 2 additional negates, so we really do not mind. And then otherwise, for those of you guys who are having some nostalgia and miss Trap Dust Shoot, 2 copies of Appointer of the Red Lotus will do you just fine. Appointer of the Red Lotus has a really cool interaction with decks that play multiple negates, in that not only does it allow you to remove a card from your opponent's hand, going 1 for 1, removing one of their options to play with, and of course you're targeting a specific card that you can remove and weaken the rest, you also get knowledge of the rest of the cards in their hand, meaning that you're now almost impossible to bluff. You can immediately play around the knowledge that gives you, and that's why Employer of the Red Lotus is absolutely ridiculous in a deck that's already playing a huge number of responses, and they can become completely targeted. So a pointer, just a beautiful interaction with the list. So that does bring us neatly onto the extra deck, and the extra deck is, of course, quite filled up with a lot of the NUMERON gate cards, but it has left us a little bit of space for a tiny amount of creativity. So let's get in. So we're playing the 1 copy of number S0 Utopic Zexal. Of course, it is the Shockmaster of the list. It is the 3-turn lockout. I don't need to explain a huge amount about this. Similarly, we're then playing the 2 copies of NUMERON Gate 1, NUMERON Gate 2, NUMERON Gate 3, and we're playing 1 copy of Gate 4. You only play the 4 for the purposes of setting up the OTK or the Utopic Zexal. You play 3 of the rest of these in order to interact them together with the 1 copy of Infinitrack Fortress Megaclops. So Megaclops is super, super cool because of the fact that it allows you to, of course, res one of these and attach one of your opponent's monsters to it, and also swing for 4k direct while unaffected by the effects of monsters that are not Xyz monsters. And I don't know if you've noticed, there aren't all that many Xyz monsters doing the rounds at the moment. So there's not all that many cards that really stop it. For the other Link monsters, we do also play 1 copy of Hita the Fire Charmer Ablaze and 1 copy of Psyframe Lord Lambda. Lambda in particular is ridiculous because we're going to get a fair bit of free generation onto the field, and who doesn't love the ability to use your Psyframe Gear Gamma for free from your hand? So it just interacts beautifully with the list. And then finally, it brings me into a small number of fusions that the list plays in the form of 2 copies of Elder Entity Natis for us to send off of our 1 copy of Infernoid Tierra. And it's also important to note that by playing these 2 Natises into a very close-by format that will include Dogmatica, it gives us 2 cards that are going to remove cards from our opponent's field as well. But I would wholeheartedly expect to see maybe a Nova and a Mechaba find their way into this extra deck if there is room. And then the last card that we want to send with the Tierra is the 1 copy of Psyframe Lord Omega, which of course allows us to recycle from our graveyard, so giving us extra deck choices back, giving us our Gammas back, whatever we should desire. Omega is going to get us there. So guys, that does bring me to about the end of the video. As we said before, please do check out Card Market in the description down below. They have been a fantastic supporter and sponsor of the channel. I'm currently waiting on a number of orders coming in from vendors on their site, so you should see a large amount of German cards cropping up in my videos very, very soon, considering the cart I have ordered in. So like I said, please do check them out in the description down below. Fantastic supporter of Jamie the Kid 00, just like yourselves. And I hope you have all enjoyed. If you have, please leave this video a like. I really appreciate it. This has been a bit different because it's a borrowed deck from a friend of mine, with kind of information imparted onto me. If you are new here and you enjoyed this, I'd love if you could subscribe to the channel. Lets me know that you want to stick around and see more of my content. Share this with your friends if you think they would benefit from a good old Infernoid NUMERON deck profile for the 2020 format. Hope you've all enjoyed. I have been Jamie the Kid 00, and I will see you guys next time with some more Yu-Gi-Oh! Related content. Peace out. Bye-bye.
To see